perspective for everyone. Thank you very much for your attendance today at the Union of Medical Care and Relief Organizations headquartered in Mississauga, addressing the healthcare crisis in Gaza amid the ongoing bombardment in the Gaza Strip. We will start with a short video of one of the hospitals in Gaza, which was attacked, and right after the Jabalia camp was attacked in Gaza City, just to give an idea how the children and the injured being treated on a daily basis. This is just an example of one of the hospitals, the busiest hospital used to be, at least in Gaza City. And then after that, we will start with the three doctors' speeches and one of the family members of abducted physician in Gaza Strip. Go ahead. It was there before, so yeah, go ahead.
Go on.
Can you begin from the beginning?
Say from the beginning.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you so much. I've been in war zone many times. I'm the Vice President of Union of Medical Care and Relief Organizations. I never witnessed children, injured children, being treated on the ground. There's no capacity, no stretchers, no beds, no rooms for them to be able to utilize for such bad injuries on a daily basis. This is just a glimpse of what's going on in Gaza Strip, but this is unfortunately going on and happening on a daily basis. We will start with the three physicians' speeches today. We'll start with Dr. Muhsina Shaqladar. She is a board member of Humanity Auxilium, and she's going to address the situations on the ground.
Good morning. Thank you for having me. I'm Dr. Shaqladar. I'm a gastroenterologist in Toronto and a board member of Humanity Auxilium, which is a physician-led Canadian NGO. Today, along with my fellow physicians, I'm here to share a glimpse of the horrors that our local partner on the ground have endured and witnessed in Gaza. I, along with my fellow colleagues, have been to multiple humanitarian efforts, such as the Rohingya genocide, Turkey, earthquake, but this crisis is different. Our volunteers on the ground play a vital role in delivering humanitarian aid, but they are fighting an uphill battle and they're just struggling to survive. Many of them have been injured, they've lost family, they've been attacked, and still they have hope. We have lost contact with them many times, and the messages that get through are rampant with destruction, images, as well as human suffering. Many of these volunteers, we can't even give them a diagnosis of PTSD because they're living this trauma every moment. I, along with my physician colleagues, would like to call an immediate ceasefire and a permanent ceasefire. The Gazans are at such a atrocious, they're facing such atrocities right now due to carpet bombing, and the basic necessities of food, medicine, and water is being blocked. Without these necessities, it is not possible for any population to survive. As per the WHO, 18 out of the 36 hospitals are working in partial capacity. As per the recent UN reports, the practice of medicine is under attack. This ongoing destruction and displacement of more than 1 million people is causing the spread of gastrointestinal and respiratory illnesses, as well as aggravating these third-degree wounds, burns, and infections. As physicians in North America, we can't even imagine doing surgeries on children without anesthesia and seeing premature babies gasp for lack of oxygen. Humanity Auxilium, in addition with other NGOs, have created a comprehensive team of physicians who are ready to go and assist in Gaza when the opportunity arises. Our local partners are trying to cross the Gaza border on a daily basis. They're there waiting for hours and hours with supplies. The warehouses in Egypt are full of supplies, but they can't get through, especially water. As physicians, every fiber of our conscious being is urging us to do what we do best, and that is to treat patients. We need a humanitarian corridor, and we need an immediate and permanent ceasefire so that we can do what we do best and save thousands of lives. Thank you. The next speaker is Dr. Ben Thompson, and he will take over. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to try this without a microphone.
Yeah,
Is that okay?
yes.
Okay. According to the United Nations Special Rapporteur on the Right to Health, the healthcare system of Gaza Strip has been completely obliterated. The Commissioner General states, "We are reaching the point of no return, where blatant disregard for international humanitarian law scars our collective consciousness." As of this morning, 283 healthcare workers in Gaza have been killed. The last 2 months has been the deadliest conflict in United Nations history, with 133 of their staff members killed. There have been 212 attacks on Gaza healthcare facilities since October 7th. This includes 24 different hospitals that have been bombed by Israel, over 100 ambulances that have been put out of service. Israel has arrested dozens of doctors. Their whereabouts remain unknown. The head of the main hospital, Shifa Hospital in Gaza City, Mohammed Abu Salmiya, has been under Israeli arrest since November 22nd. Many other senior doctors have continued to be held by the Israeli military for almost 2 weeks with no charges, and no one knows their whereabouts. Rantizi Pediatric Subspecialty Hospital, bombed. Al Nasser Pediatric Hospital, bombed. Gaza's only eye hospital, bombed. Gaza's only mental health hospital, bombed. Wafa Rehabilitation Hospital, bombed. The seniors facility immediately adjacent to Wafa Rehabilitation Hospital, bombed. Al Jura Children's Hospital, targeted with prohibited white phosphorus, October 12th. Indonesian Hospital, the only hospital currently operating in the north, still trying to treat patients while being bombed. Shifa Hospital, bombed. The 2 medical schools in Gaza, Islamic University of Gaza, bombed. Al-Azhar University Medical School, bombed. Médecins Sans Frontières ambulance convoy, bombed. Red Cross ambulance convoys, bombed. Of 35 hospitals in Gaza, as of this morning, 26 are non-functional. 9 remaining only partially functional, but they are operating at more than double their capacity, with critical shortages of basic supplies and fuel. These facilities are also providing shelter to thousands of internally displaced people. Palestine Red Crescent Society yesterday announced that operations of their ambulances in northern Gaza has stopped due to depletion of fuel, hospital closures. It is now impossible to evacuate wounded people in the north. Instead, those patients are left to die. As of this morning, over 17,000 Palestinian people have been killed, including over 7,000 children. There are at least 46,000 people injured, thousands of whom are critically injured. There is insufficient hospital space to treat even a fraction of these patients. Massively overcrowded United Nations shelters have become havens to spread infectious diseases, including a hepatitis A outbreak, multiple meningitis outbreaks, lice, skin infections, and multiple diarrheal illness outbreaks. The United Nations Human Rights Office has declared on December 5th the pattern of attacks that target civilian infrastructure raises serious concerns about Israel's compliance with international humanitarian law and raises the risk of atrocity crimes. There have been immeasurable numbers of violations of special protection to civilians, children, and medical personnel, and widespread violations of international humanitarian law. This war is raging due to political leadership, complete lack of political leadership. The war in Gaza must end, and it must end now. Thank you. Dr. Khan?
Yeah, thank you very much, Dr. Thompson. My name is Dr. Alia Khan, and I'm a clinical professor of medicine at McMaster University, and I'm also a board member of UOSSM. And on October the 15th, 800 internationally recognized experts in international humanitarian law warned of an imminent genocide in Gaza. And this warning was ignored by the US and Canada. On October the 7th, we witnessed 1,200 attacks on the people of Israel. And this was followed by an intense carpet bombing campaign on the people of Gaza, with more than 40,000 tons of bombs dropped on Gaza, which is equivalent to 2 nuclear bombs since October the 7th. We have seen, as Dr. Thompson described, more than 17,000 people killed in Gaza. 70% of these people are women and children. More than 1,000 babies have been killed, and more than 7,000 children have been killed, and they have died horrific deaths with burns and dismemberment. Tens of thousands of people have been injured. 1.8 million people have been displaced from their homes with no food, no water, no medical supplies, and they have been seriously, severely injured. As you saw in the video, ladies and gentlemen, there were open fractures in these children, burns, and severe injuries which will require multiple surgical procedures, and they have no medical care. The children have been severely injured in the bomb blasts, and they have lost their limbs, and they have been buried under rubble. In the West Bank, not Gaza, but in the West Bank, 250 people have been killed in the West Bank since October the 7th. And I'd like to remind everyone that there is no Hamas in the West Bank. And 1,000 Palestinians in the West Bank have been driven off their land. These are gross violations of international humanitarian law, and we are seeing barbaric massacres of an entire civilian population with modern military technology. This is barbaric, this is savage. with complete destruction and collapse of the healthcare infrastructure in Gaza. The destruction is enormous, beyond any degree of proportionality. And we have seen the targeted killing of more than 280 physicians and kidnappings of physicians and healthcare workers. These are all war crimes. I'd like to remind everyone that civilians, healthcare workers, humanitarian workers are all protected by the 4th Geneva Conventions. And these conventions demand fair treatment of injured and imprisoned combatants and non-combatants in a conflict. The world has clearly failed the people of Gaza. And Canada used to be a leader as an international peacekeeper and a human rights advocate since World War II. But now we have failed our duty. And Canada is completely at odds with the positions of internationally recognized human rights organizations like MSF, Amnesty International, Beta Salim, and medical relief organizations. In fact, Canada is openly supporting Israel in violating international humanitarian law and the committing of war crimes in Gaza. Raz Siegel, a scholar of genocide and a Holocaust scholar, said that what Israel is doing is a textbook case of genocide. We physicians have a moral responsibility to speak out in the presence of war crimes and horrific massacres of civilians, especially children, babies in incubators, bombing of hospitals, and targeting of physicians and healthcare workers. We are representing more than 3,000 Canadian physicians who share our concerns. We have met with the Prime Minister's office on November the 30th and reviewed our demands, and we are now sharing these demands with the media. We do not want our country, Canada, to be complicit in these war crimes. And we are demanding the following 3 actions. Number 1, permanent, immediate ceasefire. Number 2, urgent, adequate, and uninterrupted delivery of humanitarian aid, including food, water, fuel, medical supplies, and equipment. Number 3, Canada must support rules-based international humanitarian law and justice mechanisms. And we demand an independent investigation by the UN into the killing and the kidnapping of civilians and healthcare workers and the bombing of hospitals, schools, universities, and places of worship. The world needs ethical, moral, and principled leadership, and we ask Canada to provide this. I would now like to ask Salim, who is a cousin of Dr. Saleh, an emergency physician resident in training who has been abducted in Gaza, to speak. Thank you.
Saleh is a student doctor. He's being held by Israel without charges. He must be released immediately from there, and Canada must put maximum pressure on Israel to release him. Saleh was arrested by the Israeli soldiers 2 weeks ago when he was forced to evacuate Al-Shifa hospital while the hospital was being besieged and destroyed. Saleh called us while he was fleeing from the hospitals with his co-workers and other healthcare workers. While he was traveling, colleagues of his confirmed that at the checkpoint he was targeted by the Israeli soldiers and held captive. We fear he's being tortured as we speak in order to attempt to fabricate a confession about military activity in a Shifa hospital of which he would not and could not know anything about. Saleh and his twin brother were only 2 years older than me. We grew up together, we ate together, we played together. Saleh had so many dreams, like his dream to visit Germany, his dream to study there. His dream was also to help people abroad and in Gaza. Saleh became a doctor so he could achieve that dream, so he could always be there for his patients.
That's what Saleh has done. He continued to be by his patients until he was forced to evacuate. Saleh is currently one amongst dozens of other healthcare workers that have been kidnapped by Israel. We're extremely concerned about his whereabouts and the safety of Saleh and all the healthcare workers that have been abducted by the Israeli army. We're asking the government of Canada to call for an immediate release of Saleh and all the healthcare workers in Gaza. We're asking the government of Canada to stop providing diplomatic, economic, and armed support to Israel as it conducts this genocide. We're asking the government of Canada to call for a ceasefire immediately. The government of Canada must do justice by Saleh and the healthcare workers of Palestine and call for their immediate release and a permanent ceasefire. Thank you.
May I ask the doctor to come back, please, to the podium?
Dr. Bagel
Sorry.
is going to speak. actually,
Sorry,
on
go ahead,
the
please.
behalf of MMAC.
Sorry, go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Obaidullah Khan, and I'm one of the emergency physicians that works here in Kitchener. I represent the MMAC, the Muslim Medical Association of Canada. This is a group of physicians, medical students, and residents that number around 1,400 across the country from coast to coast. Many of us who have trained here in Canada remember the time when we took an oath to be able to protect life. We also remember the times when we lost sleep at nighttime because of our training. We also remember the times when we came home late because of all the work that we were doing in the hospitals. These are the same healthcare workers that are currently being targeted, and we would like to advocate for these demands so that the Canadian government can at least investigate and look into what is happening with these healthcare workers. We support them, and we want to find out what is happening with regards to them. Our hope is that there can be an immediate ceasefire so that their lives can be saved, and they can also be protected. We also support an independent UN-led investigation into what is happening with these healthcare workers, and we would also request the Canadian government to collaborate with international NGOs. This is our hope, and this is on behalf of the Muslim Medical Association of Canada. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. You can stay here. Please, doctors, come back here for any questions.
Yes. We're happy to answer any questions.
What is the time frame? You say immediate, but what are you hopeful for at the very least?
Well, the bombing has to stop. Every day that we have bombing campaigns going on, we're seeing children, babies being killed. Most of the civilians that have been killed have been women and children. More than 70% were women and children. This has to stop right now. The civilized world cannot tolerate another day of this.
If stops as quickly as hoped, what are the stages like? How fast are people going to go in? How many people? How many doctors? And is there a plan?
Yes, we have international humanitarian aid agencies ready to deliver aid, and we've met some of them today, Humanity Auxilium, UOSSM, MSF. All these organizations are ready to deliver aid, and we just need to be able to get in there without huge bombing campaigns going on.
These hospitals have been flattened. How do you have the equipment to replace it that quickly?
Yes, so we have some ambulances ready who are fully equipped that can act as mobile clinics. So they are at the border waiting for the signal to go through. So within 4 to 6 hours, we can get into Gaza if they let us in, as the trucks are waiting fully equipped and the ambulances will be acting as medical units themselves.
There's also an additional crossing at Kerem Shalom, which can have rapid and unimpeded humanitarian access enter through that location, in addition to the Rafah border crossing in the south. There are hundreds and thousands of humanitarian vehicles full with equipment, ready to come in. They have been sitting at the border for weeks. They need to be allowed in, rapid and unimpeded. Similarly, it makes no sense to have humanitarian aid enter while healthcare facilities are still being targeted. Ambulances are not targets. Hospitals are not targets. Healthcare workers are not targets. They must be allowed to do their work without being targeted. You asked about the hospital situation. Many of them, as you correctly said, have been bombed. There are a number of opportunities to provide healthcare to people in crisis situations such as this. In the north, there is a current proposal to have multiple field hospitals enacted. Part of that would be through MSF, part of that would be through the United Nations, which would allow very rapid setup and very rapidly address the tens of thousands of people who have critical injuries and are currently on the hospital floor not being treated.
So there's a plan to execute these hospitals just in the areas where people do need help?
Correct, and that cannot be executed while those areas are being bombed.
Is there a way in which the Canadian government can help when it comes to setting up trauma, triage, in safe zones? Like, what is something that the Canadian government can specifically do to help set up these triage centers?
Mm-hmm. So there's a few things they can do. The first thing is they can call for a ceasefire. There are international actors already available to set up these field facilities, but they need to be able to do it safely. They need to be able to do it without being bombed. We need our leaders to be courageous, to stand up and say, we need a ceasefire and we need international humanitarian law to be respected, especially as it relates to healthcare facilities, healthcare workers not being targeted. Let us do our job on the ground, saving lives. That is what we are trained to do.
Any further questions or? So far, you guys have answered all. Thank you so
Okay.
much, guys.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much.
My apology.
I don't have one back.
Sorry for that. No. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Sure.